It's that moment in history. It's nearly Christmas 2024. The Christmas trees have been in our office forever, and there's a huge row about when we should put them up. And I still think you have to save it, delay your pleasure. But anyway, guess where we are going for Christmas this year? I'll give you a clue. The Cause. U2, it's really, really tricky one, this. W.B. Yeats, Guinness and Murphy's, The Green Grass. And I was going to add energy, intelligence, innovation, River Dance, the Shannon. A place of magnificent beauty, kind and loving, beautiful, lovely, lovely people. Welcome to the Internet Seriously. I'm Lucian Taylor in Oxford.
I'm Emily Taylor in Oxford.
And I'm Kieran McCarthy, also in Oxford.
And today we welcome our very special guest from Ireland. That's not giving away any clues. No. I'm going to tell you the answer to my secret at the end of this. Internet magnate, founder and CEO of Black Knight, the registrar and hosting provider in Ireland, Michele Neylon. Welcome, Michele.
Thanks, Lucian. Nice to be here.
Coming up today, we've got the Oxford English Dictionary has just announced their word of the year. What is it and why do we care in tech? The BBC are at it again. Controversy surrounding one of their presenter stars has caused outrage among the middle classes and women of a certain age. We look at the role of Instagram as a forum for putting the record straight. And finally, we welcome Michele. Thank you. First of all, before I hand over to Emily to chat to our dear friend and guest, Michele, please do hit the subscribe button. There's some buttons there that tell you what to do. Whatever you're following us on, do subscribe, do follow us. We need you and you're welcome. Emily, you're going to talk to Michele today.
Michele, thanks a lot for coming on the Internet Seriously. Great to see you. I was just trying to think how long we've known each other. Probably about 20 years, maybe a bit longer. I don't know.
Everybody assumes they've known me for donkey's years when they probably haven't.
They probably haven't. It just feels like donkey's years, I guess.
I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah. But
every minute you spend with me feels like 10. I mean, that's
it's like what they say
positive.
about, when you give up drinking, you don't necessarily live longer. It just feels longer. Maybe it's like
say that.
Yeah.
It's like that meme about how you can replace coffee with green tea and remove 85% of the pleasure of life.
So, Michele, tell us a bit more about Black Knight. You set it up. You started working on it when you were a student. You were doing languages, weren't you? In Limerick.
I was doing European studies with 2 languages in Limerick, at the University of Limerick, which is on the west coast, towards the west coast of Ireland. And at the time, I suppose the internet was kind of in its infancy. I mean, when I started college in '95, most people wouldn't have had an email address or anything like that. By the time I finished a couple of years later, it obviously was evolving, but there was still a lot of people who just didn't really understand it and weren't comfortable with it. So I started building websites for various academics within the university. And then out of that kind of morphed into providing a bit of website hosting for various organizations and businesses, and then realized that, well, first off, I can't design to save my life. And that doing the hosting was probably a better idea. And I kept working in the languages space for a few more years, and then in 2003 decided to give this a go full time. I'd already picked up a business partner by then, and we've been at it now for 21 years or so.
Just Michele, on that point about, I know exactly why you went into tech. I did it myself 25 years ago. But what was it about languages? Why did you pick that in the first place?
Which the languages or the tech?
Yeah, the languages.
And then the languages to tech is an interesting journey too, isn't it?
Well, I mean, I started going to France when I was a teen because I've got relatives who've been living over there for donkey's years, and I had kind of had a bit of an affinity towards languages, and I ended up working in France, and then it was like, okay, been doing that for a couple of years. I wouldn't mind going to college, and what are my options? So the University of Limerick had this course which was European Studies, and with various different paths you could take, and one of them was with 2 languages. So that's the one I chose, kind of because it kind of, I don't know, attracted me at some level. I was kind of curious about other parts of it. Because it was one of those things, you had history, you had sociology, you had culture, you had language, you had all these different things together. And I suppose the combination was interesting. Because I mean, originally, I shouldn't be here. I mean, I should be, stuck in academia somewhere. I mean, I started doing a PhD in translation and got sidetracked and ended up in this space.
But however, I still think that tech is a number of languages, so I still think there is some translation there. Obviously, you don't speak to each other in HTML and CSS.
Yeah, but I don't code. I mean, I don't code, so it doesn't that doesn't mean anything to me.
But normally linguists are really analog people, aren't they? And also with that background in culture and literature and all the things that really getting deeply into a language brings you. How did you make that leap into technology? Was it that you just saw that it was something that was happening? And
No. I mean, people keep assuming that I've had some brilliant foresight or that
or a plan. Did you have a plan?
No. Okay. First off, there's no plan.
I think that's something that everyone in tech has in common. Actually, a lot of the people who came in to technology at the same age or stage that we all did. Tend to have that in common.
Would you agree that, Kieran, did you end up in tech?
Well, you actually are an engineer. You're an engineer too.
No, I did engineering. I got excited, but I actually started building websites because I thought it was really interesting in the early days of the internet.
Yeah.
So I just did it for fun, and then you would put it, and then this thing
would
appear.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
It would scale.
And then it became a very exciting kind of world. There was a lot of movement going on.
And were you, and Michele, in your early days, were you doing very much the server under the desk type of business model?
No, in my case, it was the server in Canada.
Oh.
I was buying web space from a company in Canada who's since gone bust. And at the time, in the Irish market, to buy any kind of hosting was crazy expensive. And the amount of resources they gave you, both disk space, bandwidth, all that was just pathetic. So this company in Canada were offering what was, at the time, super generous, like a whole 100 megabytes of disk space for like $99 a year, which was significantly cheaper than anything you get here. So I started getting stuff from them and putting these clients that I had on their services, and then I putting a few of my own bits and pieces on there. And then their service went kind of downhill, and I was living in Milan at the time teaching English, and I had a choice. I was like, okay, this could go bang wallop, or maybe I do something to kind of keep it running. So I got a server from a company in Dublin. And 20 odd years later, that's what I do. Now
you have a big data center. You must be the biggest hosting provider in Ireland now. Are you right?
We would be the largest independent hosting provider and registrar in the Irish market.
Wow.
There's, obviously Amazon has AWS and Microsoft has Azure, and they have like massive data centers in Dublin. But we have our own small data center here in Carlow, and we take space from a couple of data centers in Dublin as well. So, we're the largest independent, I suppose. And there's a couple of other companies that are, parts of larger groups, but we're still independent for now.
Fantastic.
Do you ever hang out in your data center? Do you say, "Hey, come round, let's go to the data center"?
Kieran, we need to have a serious chat.
There must be benefits to having your own data center.
Screaming loud. Going there.
They're really so the data center we have in this building, it's not particularly big, but it is a small version of what we have at a much larger scale elsewhere. it is loud.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you go in there with, if you don't have ear covering, ear protection type stuff, you go in there and after about 2 or 3 minutes, you're like, okay, I need to get out of here. This is just not fun. This is not comfortable. This is just between the noise of the fans from the various servers and switches and routers and various other things in there, plus depending on the time of year and the temperature outside, the other equipment. I mean, the noise level in there it's not great. It's also kind of a weird kind of noise. It's kind of like, it's not like music or people talking or traffic. It's a really irritating noise that kind of gets in underneath you. I don't know. It's just, as soon as you close the door, you can't hear it.
Yeah.
We used to have metal box servers, and in Oxford you can't get them unless you're associated with the university, which have exclusive access to what they call the backbone in the UK. So the nearest we can get to the backbone is down on the M4, which is about a half an hour drive.
Right.
And we'd have to go down at the middle of the night and get access, 24-hour access it was. And at one point, the time when we finally gave up because we didn't have our own, so it wasn't under our own management, was when the air conditioning system packed up and the guy running the server farm was running around local B&Qs trying to buy temporary air conditioning systems and shoving them into this place to try and cool everything down because they were auto shutting down when they got to a certain temperature. So it was just endless rebooting, absolute nightmare for us. And I think if I got back into that game again, you'd have to have some control. It would have to be nearby. But I totally get you about that screaming volume. But before we go on to your next question, it's time. I've got to keep interrupting you with this rubbish because this is clickbait, okay? This is our Christmas stuff.
That's okay.
So it's time for our guilty pleasure online.
Discogs.com. So Discogs.com, it is like catnip for anybody who's into music. So,
What is it again? Can you say it again really clearly?
Discogs.com.
Oh, yeah.
Discogs.com. I don't actually know how you pronounce it.
What is it?
Discogs.com.
It is a massive database of music releases and everything else, but also a huge marketplace where you can buy CDs, vinyl, DVDs, Blu-rays, even cassettes.
And what are you listening to at the moment, Michele? What are you into at the moment? What are you buying? What was the last one you bought?
Oh, the last thing I bought was probably the soundtrack to Gladiator 2 on vinyl.
Who did
vinyl.
That? Oh, on vinyl. Very interesting.
I get all my vinyl from Discogs.
Do you?
Yeah,
We've got back into CDs.
I've never heard of Discogs. And
I've
been buying CDs.
That's my whole weekend cancelled now.
So they got their mobile app is terrible, but the website itself is great. The mobile app will drive you to drink. It's terrible. Like you start going into it, it's like, okay, I'm interested, I don't know, Dua Lipa, and you kind of start looking at Dua Lipa stuff, and the next thing you're in you've fallen down a rabbit hole. I'm looking at Kick-Out Trance early releases from sometime in the early 90s, and it's like I could buy all these CDs for like a euro a piece or something. That's nuts. It's nuts.
Brilliant.
Oh, on this topic, Michele, I did want to ask you, how was the Taylor Swift concert?
Oh my God. Amazing.
Was it?
Absolutely amazing. So I ended up seeing her twice. I saw her in Paris, last minute, friend managed to get a ticket from a scalper or something. And a few of us went, we all stood there, and that was painful. It was a great concert. I mean, it was a great concert. But after like 3.5 hours of standing, I thought my legs were going to fall off. But for Milan, I had the tickets bought well in advance, and I had a seat, and I saw the support act, and they were fantastic. And then the opening thing, and I had a decent view from kind of slightly elevated, so I could look down onto the stage, and oh my God, brilliant.
Is it brilliant? Does her music really work live?
She's amazing. I mean, she's on stage for nearly all of like 3 hours 20 or so.
Yeah.
God, that is amazing.
So apart from a couple of transitions where she's off stage, which gives her time to change costumes, I don't know, have a bio break, whatever. She's on there for over 3 hours. It's nuts, and it's not like she's sitting there in the corner strumming away on a guitar. I mean, it's It's very energetic.
Now, I am a Swiftie. Emily thinks that's nothing to do with her music. It's just to do with what she chooses to wear. And I think that
I think that's one for dads.
We're going to go on to that sort of topic later, but I can actually name some of their songs. I bet you can't.
What's your favourite Taylor Swift song, Michele?
Well, according to my Spotify Unwrapped, I listened to. I didn't even realize this because I was like, "What the hell? How is that even possible?" But apparently, one of Taylor Swift's songs was on my top list. Now, of course, I can't remember the damn song.
There you see, yeah, no.
Yeah, there you
go. I like.
It wasn't. Why do you have to be so mean?
No, I can't remember which one it was now. But it doesn't matter. I mean, her music's great.
It is great, yeah.
It's fun, and it's like I saw that, and it's wonderful to see an artist who is she stood up a little bit to the establishment, and taking back ownership of her own music. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, she hasn't stood up to Ticketmaster or the others when it comes to the ticket prices, because I know in the States the prices for tickets were through the roof.
Yes.
Michele, I want to talk to you about this. It's a complete change of subject, but
sure.
You set up this incredibly successful business in Ireland, and I wanted to we were talking a few months ago about there's been a series of dramas and documentaries about the mother and baby homes in Ireland, and you told me that you were born in a mother and baby home in Ireland, and I guess that would have been the late 70s, I suppose, would it be?
Oh God, I'm not that young. But thank you. I love the way people just you charmingly just kind of reduce my age by several years.
But I think a lot of people outside of the Irish society and culture might be surprised to know that the last mother and baby home closed in the mid-1990s. So you think about
that's astonishing.
I think first off, I suppose for a lot of people they probably don't really know what the mother and baby homes are.
Tell us what they are.
So Ireland up until quite recently was a heavily Catholic country, like dominated by the Catholic Church. Very, very conservative. I mean, when I was growing up in the 80s and early 90s, contraception had only just been legalized, and if you wanted to get condoms in a pharmacy, they would literally ask you whether you were married or not.
Because it was for only if you were married, wasn't it?
Well, they'd ask you. And then
if you said no, would they then say, "Well, then you can't have them"?
Yeah, pretty much.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, but it was farcical because it's not like as if you've got a kind of a proof of marriage that you carry around in your wallet or something when you go into a supermarket or a pharmacy.
So it's sort of like, I have to ask you this, and you have to say the word yes, and you have to lie to me, and that is that's.
I mean, it's the entire thing. I mean,
so what were the mother and baby homes? They were a place for unmarried mothers to go and be disappeared.
They were sent there. They wouldn't have gone there voluntarily.
Right. And one of the things, I was reading this book by Claire Wills called something like My Grandmother's Secret, Missing Persons. And she made this point, which I thought was really right. It wasn't like the church was kidnapping these young women. It was something that the whole of society colluded with. The church were actually doing a service to remove these embarrassing young women from their communities and their families.
They were considered to be like fallen girls.
They were fallen women. Yeah.
They were, I mean, I'm fortunate now looking around and I see my friends, people the same age and younger, who are, in various different relationships, having kids and all that, and they'll never have to deal with this. This is something that it's part of our past, and it should be part of our past and should be put in the history books. And
how long did you live in the mother and baby home?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I mean, my mother got pregnant, came back to Ireland sometime in 1972, and her parents, being very kind of conservative Catholic, basically packed her off to Bessborough in Cork. Mm-hmm. And it was, Bessborough is one of the infamous mother and baby homes. It was on the edge of Cork City. so there's been multiple studies, there's books written about people's experiences there, and talking to my mother about some of it, like some things she kind of go, yeah, that totally resonates, and she wrote an interesting review of one of the books, which was quite revealing to me as well. Because that's something I think that she or anybody who went through that really wants to talk about. And right now in 2024. There's the film with Cillian Murphy out called Small Things Like These, which is based on a novella, which is focused around like this girl in a mother and baby home, and this kind of interaction with somebody, a local, and it's very. It's
How
such
do
a
you feel
weird kind of thing.
watching
Like
those
Ireland,
things?
Ireland has moved on. I mean, we're one of the few countries in the world where, we voted in favour of marriage equality. We finally legalised divorce, abortion, all these different things.
You had a
But,
gay mixed race prime minister. That for me, growing
Yes.
up
Oh,
as
yeah,
well,
yeah. I mean,
with
but-
Irish family, that would have been unthinkable in the 80s and 90s. It's
Yeah,
incredible
it's-
to see how Ireland has really transformed itself socially in that time. But
Yeah, but this thing with the mother and baby homes is like it's the most ridiculous thing ever. I mean, the Catholic Church and the government and society, this supported this, and the some of the things that went on there are really, really horrendous. I mean, there's been multiple studies, reviews, all this about hundreds, if not thousands, of babies that died in these places in terrible circumstances.
that was sold as well.
Forced adoptions.
Yeah.
I mean, basically, practically selling babies abroad, like these babies being shipped off to families in the US, Canada, and elsewhere. And the rights of the children being completely ignored, the rights of their parents being completely ignored. I mean, just insanity.
Yeah, and also the boys who were the fathers. I mean, I know we need to wrap this, but
well, before I move on, I mean, and Kieran and Emily have asked me to argue for the positive aspects of the church, which is rather bizarre on a sort of internet.
We weren't going to do it.
We weren't going to do it.
Joke show. Well, no, I'm hearing in the UK that they're just saying Ireland was more progressive and got there first, and in the UK we're hearing the horror stories of exporting children to Australia and things like that.
Yeah, but I think the UK, in all fairness, I think the UK was never as conservatively Catholic as Ireland. I mean, essentially, the UK is more, it's a Protestant country. It's not a Catholic country. It's not, you've had divorce. I mean, well, basically, it's the divorce which kind of created the Protestant schism with the rest of the church anyway.
Yes,
but,
with that
wonder. Good old Henry VIII.
Good old Henry VIII.
Lovely guy.
Yeah, chopping heads off.
It is
But
still
I mean, like certain things were more acceptable in the UK long before they were accepted here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Like
just trying to understand.
up until very recently, Irish girls were traveling to the UK for abortions.
Yeah.
Yes.
And there were terrible,
constantly.
there were incredibly moving stories around the whole second abortion referendum about the sort of these girls travelling over on their own, and often a cab driver being the difference between them, just sort of being going back to the airport on their own after this operation.
So I asked ChatGPT to tell me some positive aspects about the church, because I had a very disconnected childhood from anything to do with church. For me, church was about being dragged down to the local parish church and having RE.
And you
by
said
this
that
psychopath.
You didn't even know you were a Protestant until a Catholic told you.
No,
you were.
until your family told me. You wouldn't understand you're a Protestant, and I didn't even understand what the word Protestant meant. But anyway, it came up with these positive aspects. It has convening power, managing events and ceremonies, community work, global outreach. Sorry, I'm actually just reading ICANN's front page. Sorry, it's completely... No, it has civic responsibility disability, weddings and funerals, community work, food banks, care in hospitals and prisons. The global Anglican community is a global expression of Christianity, and its history is rooted in the Bible and apostolic faith, that's the Church of England. And then the Catholic Church has even more stuff than that. It has even more medals. It's got the authority of the Pope. It's got 7 more books than the
Pope
Protestant.
has great outfits
It has
as well.
5 additional sacraments, and it's got 2 additional criteria for salvation: good works and sacraments.
Plus, also the Catholic Church, with the way that priests dress, like it's cross-dressing. They were incredibly progressive.
They were very progressive.
In wonderful dresses.
I think that's absolutely fantastic. So, have we got?
You got Michele with that one.
Have we got? Does that still stand up, Michele, or have we got to the end of all of that?
Look, I mean, there's good people involved in a lot of churches around the world. I'm not going to dispute that, and I think the church can and has done good things, but there is a ridiculous situation involving the Catholic Church, be it in relation to mother and baby homes, to abuse of children, all sorts of other things that the church has basically stuck its head in the sand and avoided. And the things here is like where the religious orders have managed to escape any real fines or being kind of forced to do anything, because essentially the government lacks the backbone to force them to do anything.
Mm-hmm. And you said that became an issue in the latest election. I know
we're running out of time. We've got time for one more question with you, Michele, and then if you may, we'd like you to hang around for just 2 more topics for the last 10 minutes, which we wanted to briefly touch on. But before that, it's time for our Tech Room 101. Wait for the music. Michele Neylon, what is your Tech Room 101? What would you like to throw in the tech bin forever?
I think USB keys.
Oh, interesting. I don't think we've had that one before.
No, I thought you were going to say printers. But anyway, USB keys, that is the thing that you have to, that is the physical hardware that you have to insert into something instead of a password.
So why?
No. The thing is, so USB keys as a storage device.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Why would you throw them away, Michele?
They're crap. They're rubbish. I mean, there's also so many problems with them. I mean, physically they're a pain. They're all using the wrong USB standard these days, so they're not available for USB-C. Security-wise, they're a nightmare, and the capacity of a lot of them is absolute rubbish. So throw it in the bin.
And if they replaced it for USB-A and A, I think you're talking about, to USB-C, wouldn't it fall out? Because then you've got a great big thing stuck into a small hole. I don't know what's on your mind, Michele. I'm thinking about a USB thing.
Look, your wife is there sitting with you. This is neither the time.
This is a family show.
It's a
Emily,
family show.
do we have a tech question for Michele before we wrap up on this one?
Not really.
I was just wondering, Michele, just as a hoster and a registrar, any challenges at the moment that you're facing?
Oh, look, there's always challenges, and I think there's different ones. I mean, both on the regulatory front, things like NIS2, DSA, GDPR. I mean, there's so many of those different bits of legislation coming down from both the European and at national level. Over here in Ireland right now, the Commission de Man is kind of ramping up, I suppose, the best way to describe it. So they will be in a position where they're going to be primarily focused, I think, on the bigger platforms, but they're also going to be acting as a kind of an internet regulator in Ireland, which could get kind of interesting, especially as they so far have come up with very kind of fluffy language, like things like saying, porn is a problem. It's like, okay, please define porn. Oh no, we couldn't possibly do that. I'm like, well, no, we do need to do that because, as a hosting provider, I'd like to know, is this legal or not? Thank you. I suppose the other challenges, of course, is comes to marketing and selling, where as an independent provider, we can offer certain things, but at the same time, we don't have the deep pockets of a multi-billion-dollar corporation like an Amazon or some of these other companies. So makes for interesting conversations.
I think you've
sometimes.
Raised huge topics for us, which we're going to have to leave it at that, Michele. I'd love to talk to you about NIS2, GDPR, and come back to you, because those are challenges for the whole industry, wouldn't you agree, Kieran?
For sure.
Yeah. So next up, and please stay around, we've been hearing from the BBC, who are at it again. Controversy surrounding one of their presenters of MasterChef has caused outrage among middle classes and women of a certain age. I've been reading rants on the New Statesman, but what we're interested in today is the power of the internet in all of this. So we've got these allegations that are being strongly denied by Gregg Wallace, the presenter of MasterChef's legal advisors. And he's able now to represent himself. This reminds me of Prince Andrew, Emily, when he was able to sort of represent himself. Now, with Prince Andrew, it was a bit more expensive because they got Kirsty Walk-in, they got Newsnight in, they got the whole team to sort of interview him. But Gregg Wallace has been able to go on Instagram, and I've been reading that he's actually quite familiar on Instagram. He's very, very engaged with the public. He gets out there hourly, following and liking people. So they're very used to used to hearing his train of thought. How do we feel about Instagram as a media for setting the record straight?
Well, I mean, it's being used by a lot of people. And it's very powerful because it literally enables you to say exactly what you think, and it's instantly shareable. In this case, he would have been well advised not to say what was on his mind. He's created an absolute havoc.
I was actually wondering if Prince Andrew was his PR advisor at one stage.
Well, what's the problem? I mean, he's saying his fans know him. It's likely that the generated remarks from his defenders classing these claims of sexually inappropriate comments are merely a group of uptight women unable to handle dad jokes.
Yeah, I mean,
he sets himself up as, I'm the bald man, I'm just the every regular guy, and we're just doing it. This is locker room talk.
Well, and it's also, I think there's a bit of class warfare in there as well, because it's middle class women of a certain age, and as the woman of a certain age on the panel today, I can say that I heard the allegations. I was like, didn't really think one thing or another. They're strongly denied. It's quite possible that he is, from a different generation. He doesn't quite get it, how younger people and women on the contestants who are in a sort of different power dynamic might take that sort of remark. I was just like, it could all be a misunderstanding. And then he did his big defence, and I was like, fuck you! Who are you to talk about women of a certain age? And I went from being like fairly ambivalent, give the guy his hearing, to thinking,
string him up.
Well,
and
what's he saying? He's saying, like, I took it like you, like women of a certain age.
Has this resonated at all in Ireland? Have you heard?
Sure. Like we get the BBC over here. I mean, if you've got a TV, you probably have access to the BBC. So obviously, yeah. I mean, it is.
Apparently, they cancelled the Christmas special because it's such an enormous deal over here. Not the allegations, but his defence on Instagram.
Well, so the thing him saying about women of a middle class women of a certain age.
Now, I have less problem, I suppose, because I'm just used to class prejudice all my life. I mean, that's just baked into the British culture. We don't even find it like a racist. We just say it. It's just he's lower class, I'm upper class. But the women of a certain age. I don't understand what's being said there.
Is that he's right. There were those women making the complaints, and why? Because only those women felt that they were able to make those complaints.
Yeah, right.
Because they are of a certain age, i.e., I've had enough of this.
Yeah.
And they're middle class, which means, i.e., I've got enough status and money behind me to be able to put myself out there. They were saying this guy has behaved inappropriately for a really long period of time, and the only people able to stand up to him were this group of women.
Yeah,
but for
because
him
they
to
have
then
less to lose. And then for him, for me, there was what I took from it was like, oh, these women, they're jealous of my, incredible
My
attractiveness
riz.
to my riz,
Yeah.
to the 25 and under age group.
Yeah.
Well,
And
no,
they're,
sorry.
they're probably a bit desperate
This is
and
a
jealous.
person. This is a person who is a star. Don't forget, pussy grabbers get
voted in, yeah.
as president of the United States. This is a guy who is rewarded for his attention. He's very, very popular on TV, and he's very popular on Instagram.
With women of a certain age. Who's watching it? Who's watching this stuff? It's like people like me who are like
indeed.
into the cooking.
You have defended Gregg Wallace and the other guy as something that I should watch.
Lucian's like, this guy's a creep. I'm like, no, the cooking is great.
I'd never say that in public. Anyway, but
his opinion.
he receives constant comments about his generosity and good looks. And what I got from the implication that women of a certain age are that they're jealous because he doesn't give them the kind of attention that they actually want from him.
Yeah, I think that's how I took it. Poor old Gregg. I think, and that made me think. This is where I thought maybe Prince Andrew is his PR advisor.
Well, my thing as soon as he said this was, I thought, well, maybe he did, maybe he didn't. Then when he said this, I thought, oh, he definitely did.
Definitely
oh, for
did.
sure.
Yeah.
We're gonna steer away from this. I know we've got
strongly denied.
We've got a lawyer at the table.
We'll invite Gregg on.
Yeah, we'll invite Gregg on.
Yeah. Anyway, Kieran, your topic. The Oxford, Michele, try and guess what this is. The Oxford English Dictionary has just announced their word of the year. I don't know why they call it a word of the year, because it includes a phrase.
They always have it, don't they?
What is it?
That's very unfair.
Swifty?
Swifty. That's my word of the year.
Yes,
I'm going to have a
Swifty.
Swifty.
Your word of the year.
Yeah, no. Kieran.
Brain rot is the answer. And
is that after a drink? Is that what you feel in the morning?
So this is I'm going to use their description because obviously it's the OED, and so they have very good at describing words. Deterioration of a person's mental or intellectual state, particularly through the overconsumption of trivial online content, which basically means
that's all of us,
scrolling through, TikTok or Shorts.
Discogs.com.
Just going through, watching garbage after garbage. And you do it, and they're very addictive. And you do it for half an hour, and then you basically turn into an idiot.
You do.
And I've seen it happen. Yeah.
Michele,
times.
Have you got brain rot?
Do you have brain rot?
Probably a little bit. I mean, I got started getting repetitive strain injury with TikTok.
Right.
Because in the way it's like you're using your thumb to go from one video to the other, and my left thumb is.
Have you got some arthritis going in there?
But Kieran,
I'm not that old. Come on.
I am. You were talking about the predominance of tech words in the short list. This is why I think this is worthwhile.
There's a short list each year, and they choose one to be the word of the year. And also on the short list was slop, which the younger generation uses AI created content that is just sort of it's shared indiscriminately, just stuff. It's out there that you can't avoid.
Another one before we wrap up?
Law was another one.
And law, is that like in folklore or the Lord of the Rings?
It's a new use of an old word, and it basically means, and the younger generation use it to sort of talk about TV shows or whatever, online shows, and sort of the sort of background to it, the sort of what's underneath it. And the reason why I think this is fascinating, two reasons. One is that most of it is digital. These terms are talking about digital lives, and so we've got new words to describe how that is changing our lives. And secondly, there's a whole new lexicon for a younger digital generation. They're using old words in a new way. And
so, Michele, the Oxford English Dictionary is down there with the kids.
They're probably doing better than I am. I mean, I'm probably completely out of touch.
Yeah. Michele and Kieran, had you heard of it? And Luce, had you heard of any of these?
Only through my teenage... I knew all of them, but because of my teenage daughter. Another one's demure. No, demure is like an old...
The demure thing was from that meme earlier.
Yeah, demure came from a meme. And so, so they just use...
How's that being used?
In the same way that demure has always been used, it's just been used so much more regularly to sort of... Well, it's used expansively.
Yeah.
Well,
and Riz as well.
So, this is great for us, isn't it? This money for you, Michele, because our sad little industry is becoming de rigueur. We're right up there.
Well, I mean, look. Language always evolves. I think it's one of the things that it'll change over time, and we'll use words in new and interesting ways. I mean, I think Kieran's right. I mean, this thing with what the teenagers are doing with language, and then different generations use words in different ways. It's fascinating.
Sadly, we're out of time. You've raised many topics that we want to discuss in depth, and maybe we can have you back when we get some headline about NIS2 or a new thing about GDPR and stuff like that, which is a real bugbear for all of us in the industry, and also the battle of the regulators versus the industry and what we're all going to do about that. And we didn't even mention know your customer, Michele. I don't want to send you into a seizure, but I'm really fascinated on hearing your thoughts on that, but also the fascinating discussion today. Before we finally wrap up, a voice of God, do we have any comments of the week?
We have a lovely comment of the week in response to our video about NATO at cyber war with Russia. At NACDad said it was refreshing.
Oh, that's very lovely.
Bit of refreshing war.
Thank you very much.
NACDad, thank you very much for that.
For
and
your
comments, everybody who comments, those comments are really welcome. We do read them. In fact, there's a whole team of us here who pore over them all. And we do get back to you, and we do try and give you a mention if you do a comment as well, because this is just as much about engagement as broadcast. So thank you very much for that. So before we finally wrap up, I just wanted to say, please subscribe to this. And finally, thanks to our very special guest, Michele Neylon from Ireland. We're looking forward to coming over in a couple of weeks, Michele, and enjoying your beautiful country and enjoying a bit of Christmas over there. And I'm very relieved that you said before we went on air that Guinness is not running out. Repeat, the Guinness is not running out. There is not a shortage. If there's going to be, it's going to be a slight blip to the supply chain in the UK, but who cares about that? Thank you very much.